Welcome to Men Pushing 60, the podcast. We are a community of men born in the 1960s and 70s. Whether you're approaching 60 or you are already there, this show is for you. Here we talk about where we've been, what we're doing now, and what we're building for the years ahead. The wins, the lessons, the challenges, and the opportunities. We bring honesty, purpose, and humor to every conversation. Whatever version of 60 you are pushing, you belong here. We're glad you're with us. Welcome. All right. Welcome to the Men Pushing 60 podcast. We are Men Pushing 60. Woo-hoo, cheers. Episode 1. Today's episode is a question and an answer, all right? How did we get here? We've worked since we were born. I feel that way as someone who's pushing 60. So whether you are a man that is pushing to the age of 60 or you are already there and you were born 5+ decades ago and you are now pushing that 60-year-old rock up that hill to whatever is next, whichever version of 60 you are in the right place, and this podcast is for you. Welcome. We are glad that you're here. So let's jump right in. As I mentioned, today's episode is how did we get here? We've worked since we were born and we've never stopped. It's going to be a good chat today about the first jobs that we've had and how young we were when we started working. So I will kind of jump right in here. I love this topic, and I think you guys do too. I know we've talked about this a little before the call and kind of during our lives. It's, the stuff we're going to talk about today, I think can never happen again. A lot of the stuff. I mean, paper routes don't exist, right? So when we start talking about that, those things were rooted in child labor, right? I mean, that's what it was. These companies came up with a great business model. Let's get all these kids to do the work for us, right? But I think when no one tells you that once we start working, you're not going to stop for a long, long time. So what we're going to talk about today is, how did it start? We were really young. I don't know if it was society or our parents who deemed us, ready, willing, and able by the age of 10? I don't know, 9, 11, whatever we were. You just, for me, it was just kind of this unspoken thing, right? And we talked about it before. I think you just started doing work around your house. It was like a tryout, right? They kind of groomed you for some job. You're not exactly sure what it was. They groomed you for this job, and they groomed you for these things. And then all of a sudden, there was this. You were old enough to get a job, and maybe for me, they didn't sit me down at the kitchen table and say, "Carlo, time to get a job." No, it just kind of happened, right? I think my dad found. Yeah, I'll tell you the story. My dad found the first job for my brother and I, so maybe he was part of it. But I think it was just a little bit of everything, right? I'm not sure it was I think Brian, you asked when we were chatting before, were we poor? I'm not sure our parents woke up one day and said, "Hey, you're poor, go get a job." But it was kind of part of that.
What was the job that your dad got for you and your brother? I don't think I heard that one.
That was the only way we could get jobs, right? There was no,
yeah.
I mean, there were want ads when we were kids, but the only way you got a job was at your parents' company or somebody that they knew or your next door neighbor. There was no internet. That was the only way you found. So that's probably why working for free in our parents' backyard, we were willing to do virtually anything that somebody would pay us to do. Right. The expectations were so low with our first jobs. We would shoveling shit for $2 an hour. I am in.
I got the job in the sub shop in the center of town. I'll tell you about this. I'll tell you this story. It's moderately fantastic. But it was, again, we're making fun of this a little bit today. We're going to tell these stories, but it's kind of what shaped us, right? And the work ethic in us and kind of what we've done today. So I know you guys have a lot of similar stories. So let's jump right in. Kevin, what do you got?
Well, I think what Mark was saying, this is a generational thing. It wasn't like there was much else to do, right? If you were playing in the neighborhood, there was no video games. There was nothing to do. There was 3 channels on TV, right? We got raised by the silent generation or the greatest generation, one or the other. Both of whom were, Depression era, aware anyway, even if they didn't grow up in the Depressions. The first thing, I remember the first thing wanting to do was get a job. So at 9, I lived across the street from a golf course. You were able to become a caddy. And so all the other kids in the neighborhood were already caddies. So at 9, I marched my 4-foot-tall, 70-pound body across the golf course down to the caddy shack, and then they teach you how to be a caddy. $4 per bag, and it was a 4-hour loop. And so if you were good, you did 2 loops in a day. So you were 8 hours Saturday and Sunday.
Were you carrying 2 bags or 1 bag?
One bag. You start with one bag. I was 4 foot 70 pounds.
He's 73 pounds right now, just to give you
You've seen
give you
Caddyshack
something.
where they give him that giant bag?
Yeah.
You can't okay, that was me, right? So they give you the big bag. They give you the, you caddy for the ladies on the weekend, had little push carts. And you made $4 in the morning, and then you go out back to the caddy, the bullpen, and they pick you again, and you get out for another loop. We made $8 on a Saturday, $8 on a Sunday. Came home, $16 in your pocket, money for bubble gum and baseball cards or whatever. It wasn't like we were giving it to the household pool. It was just money to do stuff with. But that was it, first job. And I think I did that for. It was a summer job, obviously. I did that for 4 or 5 summers before, and then got more work. But that was it.
Can we press the virtual pause button here for a second? And you were 9, 9. Could you imagine a 9-year-old today?
Gone 8 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I know the golf course was close to your house, but that's, even if it wasn't, until you rode your bike there or something, you would have got there. But it was, I want to hear about the golfers that you had to serve.
This was, let's see, when would it have been? 70s, right? 5.
And I remember
I was 9.
And that golf course only had caddies, if I remember correctly. Not that I've ever played there, but it was this fancy. It was this fancy place. No names.
You had to take a caddy. Yeah, and nobody ever tipped you. They just they signed your card, and then you cashed your little check in for $4.
The tip was that if you caddied for a benevolent old fart at whatever country club you worked at, which I did as well, when you got to the turn, first off, you had to go around the back of the snack shack, and they would let you order 1 snack and 1 drink to make it through the next 9 holes of lumping 2 bags around the golf course. So the people at the golf course that I caddied, that was, and if you went there and you went around the back and you'd ask, I'm caddying for so-and-so and so-and-so, and they say, no, you can't get anything.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
You gotta do another 9 holes and hope you don't pass out.
There was no golf in my life until later on, but that's just awesome.
It's crazy.
Well, I was golf adjacent. I'm with you, Carlo. I didn't play golf. That was just what my father would drive. I got driven. I didn't walk across the street, Kevin, but I got dropped off at the golf course.
Yeah.
And I would get picked up, and I hoped that I got a second loop. Otherwise, I was just sitting there toiling away. No golfing for the caddies.
So you were making less than minimum wage. I actually looked up what minimum wage was in 1975 or 78.
Go ahead. What'd you come up with?
I came with $2 or something like that. $2.10 or something like that. It was it was a less than minimum wage job.
I remember when I got a raise.
Call the EOEA. What was I calling?
I got a raise at the grocery store when I first started working. I was probably 16, and I remember the minimum wage had risen from $3.10 to $3.15. That was in the 80s.
That's crazy.
Made a huge difference in that, huh?
Yeah.
So it's great. You talk about this story today, Kevin, and you are quite a golfer, so it obviously had an impact.
Stuck, man.
An impact on you.
I love it.
Did you get did you steal their golf balls and stuff, or did you get anything any other?
I'll tell you a quick story. So two really short stories. We used to find balls in the woods wherever, and then we'd take them back and we'd sell them on a little tray table, like a TV tray table. We'd put boxes of golf balls out, and they were the good ones were 50 cents and the better, more like the good ones were 50 cents and the shitty ones were a quarter. And then one guy came by one day, he's like, this is my golf ball, it has my name on it. And he just took it, and he wouldn't give us the quarter. And I'm like, yeah, but you lost it. Clearly we found it in the woods. It's not like we stole it out of your golf bag.
Possession's 9/10.
And again, you were 4 feet tall. You weren't going to fight with that guy.
Yeah, no, exactly. He took my golf ball. What am I going to do? Guys,
Kevin was scrappy. My money's on him.
I'll skip the other story because it's not as good. But that's the good one. We used to find golf balls and sell them back. That's what we did. Ball hawking is what you called it. You go into the woods and you come out with 3 dozen golf balls.
I think.
Nice.
I mean, no tips, man. That's horrible. I know that. No. I know. Brian, you got the paper route story we're going to talk about, but it's just I think you were husking for tips, right? Because that was another less than minimum wage. It was basically free, right?
Yeah.
You worked for tips. What a crazy, I mean, again, paper routes don't exist today. I don't think any kid would be able to do it because they couldn't put
Grown
their
men
phone
do
up.
the paper routes now, right, with a car.
I remember the way the price of the paper went up. It was something $1.15 for the week or something like that, and they raised it to $1.25. And I'm like, the only one that's going to lose money is me, because they're not going to get the freaking dime. They're not going to give me an extra dime. They're still going to give me $2.
Right.
I never had a paper route, but I remember doing paper routes with people, which was weird because I would walk their paper routes and help them collect, and there was always some guy that never paid.
Yep.
And then they had to shake him down. They were knocking on the door to give him. What was the paper route like? I mean, how did you get the Sunday Globe was like, again, for those who don't know us, we're in Massachusetts, was 4 inches thick.
You probably have to go home and reload. You could take half the papers, deliver them, and then you'd have to go back and reload the bag.
Yeah, my quick story on that is the deal with my mom was she would take me around on Sunday in our station wagon, the family truckster. And because the paper was so big, I couldn't carry 50 papers. I'd have to come back to the house like 5 times. So the deal was she would take me around and would deliver all the papers, and then I would have to buy the donuts for the family for the cost. And that's where we talked about, were we poor? I mean, I feel like we were poor,
Yeah. You have to buy the donuts. That's awesome.
Crazy.
What did you make, like paper routing as a paper boy? Like, what was it? I mean, back then it was coins too, right? You probably ended up, people probably paid you in quarters and dollars.
I remember going to Lowell 5 with the bag, and they would dump it in all the quarters and change, and they would count it out, and they're like, all right, here's your, I think I made like $10 maybe a week, $12. Yeah.
Should have been a caddy.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
Carl, along with you, I used to help somebody do a paper route, and I don't know why I did that, but you do it because whoever you're hanging out with. And the people that didn't tip or didn't pay on time,
got the wet
their
papers.
paper was tortured. They would get wet. It would get jammed in the paper box, crumpled up, and that just perpetuated the cycle of them not paying and you not getting a tip.
Absolutely.
But we felt a little bit better. We just weren't smart enough to realize that wasn't going to get you any closer to getting a buck.
The other move was, Mark, when you delivered the paper and it had a storm door, you open the storm door, you'd flip the paper over, and you'd throw it up, and you shut the storm door.
I forgot that one when they opened the door.
That's great.
But so by the time you were done, right? So you made $10 a week, but you had to go collecting, you had to go sorting, you had to get the papers like every day or whatever it was. What were you making? Like 20 cents, 10 cents an hour? I mean,
If you're lucky.
It was a horrible job. I did it for like one season, and I hated it. Especially Sundays. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's so heavy.
For me, the only thing worse than that was my household on Saturdays with my father. He was like Louis Gossett Jr. and, Officer and Gentleman. Mayonnaise! He'd have the list. He'd get up at 8 o'clock. He'd have the list of the work you're going to do for the day. That motivated me to get a freaking job as immediately as possible.
The wood stove. You had, and Brian and I have talked about this. So my dad had a wood stove. His did too. There was wood never stopped, right? There was no seasonality.
It's a year-long project, yeah.
It was, we collected wood. Yeah, it was like, I got a truckload of wood, let's go. And then ended up at the end of the driveway, then we had to split it, and then we had to stack it. And our yard was this tiny little thing, so it was just piles of wood, right? And you always had to do it. And I learned to swing an axe and use an axe. And on this little thing, I'm like, how we did not chop off a toe?
How about the sledgehammer and the spikes? My dad used to make spikes at work out of this metal. We cut our hands on it. It was so freaking sharp. You sit there and hammer it. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, you had to. So if you guys don't know, like, if you threw an axe in the wood and there was this big trunk, right? It wouldn't go all the way through, so you'd create like a slit. Then you put a wedge in there. Then you had to take a sledgehammer and hit the wedge so that it would split the wood. So then you could take the axe out. And then you maybe another cut and you put the wedge someplace else. And then you kept hitting it with the sledgehammer.
When you were 10, you couldn't get all the way through the log with one axe.
Kevin, maybe we weren't poor. My heat came out of the thermostat. I never had to stack or chop wood. So maybe we weren't as poor as Brian and Carlo.
It was crazy.
Mine came out of the baseboard.
My dad had logs delivered. These big trucks would come, and they were like 6 to 8 foot logs that were like 4 to 6 split. So we'd fill the whole driveway. We'd work our way down over the summer, cutting it all up with the chainsaw. Then he'd get a splitter and he'd put it at the top of the driveway. We would split it, bring it all the way down the end of the driveway, split everything on either side of the driveway. And then the next month was stacking it all, just in time for the winter where you had to go out every afternoon and bring in 3 wheelbarrows full of freaking wood for the fire. And mind you, the stove was in the basement. My parents' bedroom was on the first floor. They had 2 beautiful vents in their floors so the heat came up. I was upstairs in the back with a freaking hat on, electric blanket. You know the hat that has the mask was like one of those.
Bank robber mask.
Yeah.
You're the indentured servant upstairs in the servants' quarters.
Exactly.
Should have drilled a few holes in your parents' ceiling.
Yeah.
To let some of the heat up to your room.
Speaking of indentured servant, the other one was on Saturdays with my dad. Every summer we had to take the white ornamental rocks around the pool, dig them out with our hands, put them on a screen on a wheelbarrow, wash them off, and then put them back in. And do it all the way around the pool. Like, a 40-pound bag was what, $1.99?
Yeah,
Oh my
right.
god, that was when
Wash-
I need a job on Saturday, and yes, I can work on Saturday. I got to find a place so I don't have to be around the house.
washing
your hands?
washing
yeah.
rocks. Washing
Wouldn't
rocks.
give you a shovel or anything?
No,
no tools for you?
Hands.
Caveman style? Digging
Yep.
it up with your hands?
Absolutely.
Can you work on Saturday? I prefer to work on Saturday.
Yes,
if you
I can.
please.
I was a great vacuumer because it wasn't even just my dad. It was my mom. It was expected of you that, like, my brother and I. He's 14 months older. My sister's a few years younger. But so it was my brother and I. We were expected to work. We were expected to help clean the house. We were expected to do whatever. The driveway down, whatever it was you did. Clean whatever it was, do the lawn, use those clipper things to do the hedges. Those things were nasty. Yeah. Again, how we came out never losing a finger or anything like that. But then the lady up the street asked me to cut the grass, and I think I was just starting in high school, and it was fantastic. She gave me like $15. And I was like, I wasn't like super, super young, but I was like, I think maybe freshman in high school-ish, and I
real
could do it on my
wage.
own time. Her only rule was you couldn't take your shirt off. I'm like, why am I taking my shirt off? I'm like,
She wouldn't have been able to control herself. I swore the Italian boy was cutting her lawn.
she used to give me books and stuff. Yeah, I never read them. She was like, here you go. But that was it was crazy. But
But to your point, Carlo, people, like, we had to do jobs, and if you didn't do it, whether it be your neighbor or your parents, you'd either get screamed at. Like you mentioned, vacuuming, making your bed. Like we had to, which I don't know, we probably all had to do this. Take your sheets off your bed, do laundry, put the sheets back on. My mom would come back to Brian's Louis Gossett Jr. I felt like I was in the military. If there weren't hospital corners and that bed wasn't made perfect, it got stripped again, and you had to make the bed. So you know what you did the second time she ripped apart the bed after you just made it? Is you made it right. So there was negative reinforcement that was tremendous. And that instilled, I think, to your point of the work ethic, you did a job and you did it right. Otherwise, you had this vision of your parents coming down like a ton of shit on top of your head, or your next door neighbor that wouldn't let you take off your shirt and gave you War and Peace as a tip for cutting her lawn.
No, I remember one of the books she gave me. It was At Dawn We Slept. It was about Pearl Harbor. But
I
Remember that.
Feel good.
why it was traumatic, I don't know. It was like this thick. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna read that.
Thanks, honey. Yeah.
I dropped it on my foot and it hurt for a week. I just remember my brother and I. So my story about Kevin, you asked, was that the first job that I got was this sub shop in Arlington, and my brother was 14 months older, so he would have been 13 in August. That means I was still 11. So he was getting into high school, and we had to get working papers. I don't know if you guys had to do this.
I never had them, but that was a thing. Yeah, for sure. It still
And
exists, I think.
Yeah, so nobody's working at 12. So how did we get these? No internet, right? Nobody. I think it was just like this tribal knowledge kids passed around to each other. Hey, you gotta get your working papers. I just remember my brother and I walking up to the town hall, and it was this stone building. It could have been it felt like this giant Roman cathedral or something. Like you're walking in, echoing in the hallway. We didn't know where to go. I just remember walking around we were, again, parentless. Again, I'm not putting that on my parents. Like they were doing what they had to do, right? And so go do it. So we got these working papers, and then we had to get the job and we got the job at the sub shop that our dad hooked us up with, and we were washing dishes and doing whatever. You just cleaned. It was those tasks that I had already learned from home, right? How to clean, how to wash things, how to do things, and eventually I graduated to cleaning the cases and stuff like that, which is really cool. This deli had made subs, sliced meats, all this other stuff, and then one day this guy says to me, "You got to go clean the slicer," and I'm looking at him like, again, this thing was like this 14-inch razor sharp blade spinning at, I don't know, for me it was like 100 miles an hour, and I'm like, this thing was a dragon, right? And so I'm looking at him like, I would never say no to an adult. I barely talked to anybody at that point anyway in my life. I was just really quiet. I was like, okay. So I had to get a bucket to stand on, and I had to reach up to get it. I just remember.
That's definitely an OSHA approved
Oh, yeah.
process, right?
Which is the OSHA. And so
sketchy spaghetti bucket with your wet feet.
And I remember that I don't know what I had. Like there were, and think about like Serve Safe. We just used some dirty rag from the sink or something, right? And I'm going up to reach it. The guy's like, whoa, you got to close it. I'm like, good tip. So it's like, I'm like, and these might not have been my exact words, but I'm like, isn't there anybody more qualified like to do this? I am just, it's so, did I do it? Of course I did. And I graduated to that, right? That's the cleaning, when you could clean that. And it was crazy. Like, why was I doing that? Again, I was no more than 12. I think I was 11, and it was nuts. Like there was no, but that's just what we did. I mean, it was.
Speaking of OSHA, like I was 13. I didn't have to get working papers because I was working in my dad was a machinist. Had to work in his machine shop. And he showed me how to, one summer, so no working papers, no OSHA, he shows me how to use the metal shear that is chopping sheet metal, 1/2 inch thick. It just comes down and it shears it off. And he shows me how to work a metal chop saw. So I'm in the back in this warehouse.
Reaching up like this.
Pushing buttons that are bringing down this giant, monstrous
Holy
piece of
shit.
equipment that's just shearing metal. And he tells me how many of them I've got to do. I can't imagine that there was any safety, because if there was, he didn't show me how to use it. But I don't know whether I was more fearful of this dragon, like you explained it, chopping off my fingers, or if I was more afraid of my dad that was going to beat the shit out of me if I did chop off my fingers.
Right.
So that was, to
Yeah.
me, that was OSHA. Like, I am not going to chop off my finger because my dad will be so pissed off. Never mind that I'd be known as Stubby. I didn't want to piss off my dad and lose my job that I think he paid me in sandwiches and candy bars.
You were wearing safety glasses for sure,
Yeah,
right?
no safety glasses.
Safety
It was
glasses.
like metal shavings coming off of the saw, and I'm dripping saw oil or cutting oil onto the metal so that it wouldn't seize up and the blade would keep going. I'm like, that was such a good first job. Again, when you do that, I'm willing to do virtually anything after that. After that, I graduated to cleaning the bathrooms. So that was another very you're laughing, Kevin. Tell me you didn't clean a bathroom.
Wait. Mark had an MRI recently, and they said, "Do you have any metal in your body?" And he said, "Quite possibly, I have some shavings in my eye and my lungs, embedded in places I don't know." I don't know. Where would you get that? I don't know, from a freaking metal fab factory. I'm sorry, Kevin, I interrupted
No,
you.
I was just gonna say, my son at one point he said, "I wish I grew up in the '80s." He calls it the lawless '80s. Because he's like, there was no internet, there was no phone, nobody knew where you were, you could just disappear. You know, we've talked about off this podcast, you get on your bike and you leave in the morning. But it applies to all the workplaces too, right? There were no rules, there were no like what was safe, what was not safe. You know, put here, cut this, giant
Safety
piece of metal
glasses.
when you're
What
12.
is a safety glass?
Yeah. Clean this slicer. Do I clean it with my tongue or with my hand? How do I do that?
The word safety was not used with other things, nor was it used. Or was it used as a standalone? What's the word? Verb, noun, adjective, whatever. There was nothing. The word didn't exist. There was no safety.
The lawless '80s, and this was probably the pre-lawless '70s, right? Yeah.
I think, Colin, the other thing you mentioned was the fact that we didn't realize we were starting a career working for 50 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just never stopped working because that was what we did.
You had
You
to.
just got smarter about the jobs you knew you had to work. So
Right,
I mean, at least for me, I wound up working my way towards restaurants. I think Carlo, you started in a sub shop. By the time I got into high school and college, I found myself in restaurants, pizza shops,
Same.
Whatever, busboy, cook, dishwasher, like whatever it was, because you always wound up getting a free meal, especially when you get into college. It was always nice. You work 3 nights a week or something, you get 3 meals. And even when you showed up when you weren't working, somehow you'd find a free meal.
Absolutely. That's what it was in college for me. You not only did you get to work, but you got to eat, which was great, and you didn't have to pay for it. Yeah.
There were some bad jobs. I know, Mark, didn't you lug appliances around?
Yeah, that sounds horrible. That's at the bottom of the list. For
A
sure.
friend of ours, his dad owned a used appliance store. So for people that couldn't afford a fridge, they would buy a used fridge from our shop. But the best part was you'd have to go in and take out the one that had not stopped working. So what do you think was inside of it? They didn't clean out. Rotting food. You took out the broken refrigerator.
Body
that you'd
parts.
Go back to the shop to be cleaned, and then you would bring in the new refrigerator. Well, new to them, but not new to the world. But that at least worked. So moving that up and down 2 floors, spiral staircases, that was really good money. You'd do that on a Saturday, make maybe $50
Nice.
in college. Yeah.
Mrs. Dahmer, your new fridge is here.
Yeah. Colin, the body parts are in the freezer, not in the fridge.
Sorry. If it wasn't working, they were defrosting.
My shitty job was one summer I worked as a laborer for a mason. And so
That's
that
backbreaking
was
work.
mixing mud and lifting bricks and putting the staging up, and there was 3 guys, and it was a split level houses up in Concord. We do a house and a half every day. So chimney, 2 fireplaces, and start the next one every day. It was freaking torture. But I was making like $20 an hour, which cash, I was like, this is totally worth it. But it was
The
awful.
IRS isn't listening to this.
I'd rather make less money and get free subs.
Yeah, it was all the grunt work, right? I remember I worked for this place that did auto refinish, like vinyl roofs, and they did repair work on the seats. Remember, because everything had a vinyl roof back then, and they went, so you had to put, and it was this place, something Auto Top, right? And then I was in there sorting all the pieces of fabric and cleaning and doing all this other stuff. I think my dad knew the guy. Next thing you know, I was a early teenager, maybe 14, 15-ish. I knew I wasn't driving yet, but it was walking distance both ways from the shop to his house. So next thing you know, I'm at his house doing work. So it was like he's like, hey, you work for me here? I'm digging up his lawn, right? And then he's got this big garden, and I'm like shoveling manure. Like it was just unwritten rules. Like they owned you. I was like, I was this whatever, did whatever they wanted to do.
Carlo, there was no job description of working at a lawn
Yeah,
shop?
no,
You
I
didn't
didn't
have a job description?
No, they
Did
didn't
we
ask
ever
me.
tell you that's the job description?
Yeah.
Did you have any work-life balance?
Yes, I did. No, it was not. I did not
How was your
identify.
exit interview with HR?
I did not identify as a cleaner. I identified as a lawn guy as well. It was.
It's like they owned you. If they were paying you, you did what they told you to do.
Yeah.
I worked in a restaurant too. I
What are you
think,
gonna
Kevin, you
talk
said,
back?
like, whose idea was it to wear a white shirt, right? Because you're a busboy. So I'm wearing a white shirt. You're trying not to get food all over your white shirt for the rest of your shift. And then if it was slow between lunch and dinner on the weekends, they would have you go and spruce up the bathroom. So you're the busboy, and I'm back to scrubbing toilets again. So whether I did it for my dad in the machine shop, or now I'm doing it at the Windsor, which was, I don't know, one of the nicer restaurants in Drake, Massachusetts, if you can stand it. Drake, Massachusetts, that culinary hub. But you'd go and clean the bathrooms as the busboy. Hopefully you didn't run into any of the patrons, but that was just a great job too. Loved it.
Well, busboy is, first of all, not the greatest job, but
No.
I did spend a summer down on the Cape working at a fish place, and they had, if you guys
It's a gateway job.
Yeah, it was a place called the Lobster Boat. I probably should have mentioned the name. We could cut that out in editing. But if you've ever seen those magazines on the Cape, they have these little, like, come in and get a free bottle of wine. That's their hook to get you into the restaurant. And so
Yeah.
it was a shitty, they said the value of the wine was, $25 or something like that. But it was really a shitty, $5 bottle of wine. And so everybody would get it. And they'd open it and they'd like drink the neck of the bottle and realize it was crappy wine. And then the busboys, we'd all grab them. And so there was this unspoken box by the back door that would all these, like, where just the neck had been poured out. And there's like basically like 4 full bottles of wine. We grab them to say, hey, we need to make a trash run. And then all the busboys would go grab the bottles of wine, run out to the dumpster, and knock down this shitty wine, then go back in and clear more tables. So yeah, shitty job, white shirt, free wine.
And that was part of
That's
the
my
rest.
synopsis of that job.
The restaurant work was obviously alcohol. Again, that's another episode. But I just remember, I know that like when you found a job you didn't like cleaning, you that got off the list. Like, I am not cleaning bathrooms. Because you never gonna do it again. The mason job, Brian, never gonna do it again. This is hard work.
Yeah.
This becomes it once and there was a lot of trial and error, right? You took it out of necessity, and then you figured out I don't want to do that. Yeah, I was not ripping up lawns by hand anymore. I knew that, but my other story about work, I was a little older. So I was a freshman in high school, and I was pretty athletic, and we played Little League all our lives. And we, like you guys, we went to the park. And in our spare time, we just played everything, right? You went with a baseball, basketball, football, and played. And I could run pretty fast for a little guy. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall now, but like you, Kevin, I was 4'2".
Why do you have to like that? Why do you?
Why do you have to hate her? You mentioned it. So anyway, I go and try out for the soccer team at the high school. And so I was a December kid, so I was 13. And I was running. I was trying really hard. I'm thinking this is going to be great. I'm going to play the sport of my ancestors, right? This is, I'm, go there. I don't know anybody, and go try out and run. And gets to like day 3. I don't know the coach. Again, I know nobody. And maybe there's people I knew on the team, but that were trying out as well. And the coach tells me, "Hey, dude, you're pretty fast, right?" I don't think he said dude, but I said, you're pretty fast, right? And you're, like, who are you again? Like, whatever. You're like, oh, you're doing a great job. And I was like, cool. And I like get home, and I don't even think my parents knew I was trying. They probably didn't know where I went after school. There's like, I gotta go. I'm going somewhere. And I get home. I remember that night telling my dad, I'm like, hey, I'm trying out for the soccer team, and it's really great. We're doing all these drills or whatever, and he's looking at me, and then the coach told me I was doing a great job and that I should keep up the good work. And he just deadpan looks at me and goes, "How you going to work?" And there was like, it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't anything. It was just, how are you going to work? And I never went back after that. That was the end of it. That was the end of my tryout, end of any athletic.
I thought that one through.
Any of my tryouts, any of my athletic dreams or anything. It was just, however many words that is, 4 or 5 words, period, hard stop, have a nice life. You're going to go work. There's no, that's what we did. Because that was coming from a guy that, and he worked on a farm in Italy. He probably went to school to like 4th grade. It was out of necessity that they worked. That's what they had to do. And it wasn't so much out of necessity here, but that's how it was. And you just, that's how it ended up. So yeah, that's why. Knew. Yeah, that was it. And that's how.
But it definitely instills, more of a work ethic. And I think every generation thinks that the next one behind it is lazy, right? And they don't have a work ethic and they don't work hard and all that crap.
Yeah.
I don't know, somehow along the line, I think all these jobs we had, you learned pretty early, like, you had a boss. How many different jobs did you have? And some of the bosses were good and some of them were bad. And some of them were good and some of them were crap. And, but you always had to sort of push through and, I don't know, somehow I think it established some sort of a work ethic that I don't think you get when your first job is, in your 20s. I mean, there's a different level of understanding of what's expected when you've worked at an early age like we all seem to have done.
Yeah.
For your dad, wash on the rocks or working. Still had to do a good job on the rocks.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's definitely it. And I think there was this, all these adults were these authority figures, and you went to work for them and you listened and you did what they said to do. And there's nothing more humbling than, again, cleaning a bathroom and having somebody have to tell you how to do it, and then you got paid for it, but then you're like, I'm not doing this. But when you made your own money, when you cashed that check or got those tips and stuff, you felt good about it. You're like, hey, I earned this. And I think that's kind of what you were alluding to, Kevin. What you were saying is like there was that. You felt great about it, and that work ethic. You just kept doing it because you're like,
yeah, agreed.
And then your friend had another job, and you were like, oh crap, Brian's got a freaking paper route. I'm gonna go do that because then you tried that out, and then you kept building on stuff. It was.
I think if we didn't work, you didn't get money.
Oh,
so
right.
The generation might be different. There was no asking your dad. Like if I'd get a quarter to play pinball from my dad, I thought it was in Schaefer City. But you did not get $10. You did not get $5. If you wanted money to go get pizza with your friends, you best be saving your birthday card money, which you'd always get from the grandparents, or get a job. That's how you had money to do anything that you wanted to do. Like, I don't think our kids ever thought twice about saying, hey, Dad, could you float me 20? And it wasn't a loan. It was just, can you give me $20? I don't know that those words ever came out of my mouth to either my father or my mother, but...
No.
Hey, Carl, when you go to editing, I think you're going to have to subtitle Schaefer City. I'm not sure that's...
Schaefer's out of business, isn't it?
Schaefer City, yeah.
Schaefer
get the reference.
It's a fantastic reference. Come on, folks.
For the younger generation, Schaefer City means...
Okay, maybe not. Well, we're not talking to them. We don't want them to listen anyway. We don't
edit that part out.
All my paper money was in the Asteroids machine at Drake and House of Pizza.
Yeah, right.
Asteroids and pinball.
Fucking video games.
Yep.
That was like we didn't have the at home stuff until Pong came out. But so everything was you had to go someplace where there was a machine to play.
I saved quarters in a tube. I had this tube, and if you got to the top of the tube, it was like $40. And my brother always got to the top. I got to here because I always spent them all. I was never disciplined enough to save anything. This is a great conversation. I mean, we're definitely going to have a conversation about the system today. Of not for the kids, but the broken system that we all applied, that we've all been part of throughout our lives, and work till you die. Kind of the follow up to we started working young to we never stopped working. I think that we're all part of that now, and pushing 60, we're all at that point where like where did that time go too? I mean, that was I'd love to have a paper route right now. That'd be great.
AI took it over.
I think they're hiring, Carlo.
Drive down, knock on someone's door. Hello, you owe me 72 cents for your paper. No, it's they'd have DoorDash paper routes, but anyway. Anyway, this was great. Definitely a great conversation today. Any parting thoughts from anybody?
Carlo, what about this sweatshirt you got on? What's going on?
You like my hoodie?
Yeah,
Is that a built?
Yeah, it is. I just got it. Oh,
nice.
my ear thing fell out. I love it. I know we don't have any show sponsors, but if they'd
We
like
should get
to
some
sponsor
show
this,
sponsors.
we should. This is this is really heavy.
Nice.
If you guys know me, I've got one of my favorite shirts on. If I can get it open here.
We don't have an official hoodie of the
It says
60
it
podcast.
says go fish. I love it. No, we do not have an official sponsor, but we will be. We are actively seeking sponsors for us.
For any startup bourbon company that's looking for 4 of us to do taste testing on whatever day we choose to do this show, you've just found your spot. We're very discerning bourbon drinkers and would be glad to help you out with a little target audience here.
The bourbon episode is in the works for sure. But
Can you foreshadow some of your thoughts on the coming episodes for us, Carlo? You got bourbon. What else is on the docket for the?
I don't have the list in front of me, but the how did you get that scar? I think is going to definitely be one. When you were younger, I think hose water's been overdone, but we will definitely talk about our time outside and how we were feral, unattended minors and the existence of what we had. And music, I think definitely music, movies, all of those types of things. I mean, I think of all of this as kind of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, right? Then there's endless things to talk about. Again, I don't want to put us in this Gen X bucket or whatever bucket. We just are who we are in the space that we're in today. And the food episode, I think there's multiple episodes on that. Just talking about what we ate when we were younger, back to where we were poor, what we've done today, and kind of thinking about what we gave up, what we're giving up, and what we're adding, whether it's food or bourbon. I love the bourbon episode. I can't wait to do that because it is I want to talk about the gateway of how we got to bourbon, but that's another day. But anyway, you can check us out. And follow us on social media, YouTube, menpushing60.com, TikTok. We got the TikTok for all your non-TikTokers. We're going to make this happen. Stay tuned for future episodes. So we do have a mantra on this show, and the guys know it. And I'm doing my thing here, so I'm looking at my script, so I don't want to get it wrong. But even though I know exactly what it is, but this is how I am. So you ready? It goes like this. Just remember, if you are a man and you are having a bad day,
Nobody cares.
Yes. All right. Thank you to my guests, Brian, Mark, and Kevin. And we'll see you another time.
Thanks, guys.
Later.
Take
Bye.
care.